So, we've all seen the stats, 180 million mobile phones with internet access in Africa. It's amazing, and a lot of research has been done to publish all of those stats. But I can promise you that the person that is counted doesn't know that it's counted. He's never in his life browsed, experienced content on these phones. Although his phone is enabled to use the internet, he never knows that. And that's a huge challenge for us. I think that a very small percentage of people actually go onto their mobile phones and download things out of that 180 million people. So, we have all this innovation and funding and, and hubs, but the whole value chain is broken. Because all we do is we push and we create, and all of a sudden we end. How do we get it to the masses? And that's the issue that we're trying to solve with a new, better, and more efficient distribution channel. So yes, there are current distribution channels out there. All the phone manufacturers and the operators try and do it. But we really have to think back to Africans and what we do and what's inherent in our, what are we born with. So we are social people. We trust people. We communicate face to face. And we move in these social circles. And if we can influence that social circle to educate people and learn and enable people to download content on their mobile phones, I think we're winning. And we see that we need to empower the matatu driver, the owner of a spaza shop, with a relevant content distribution model that he makes money from, that he can communicate to his audience in his area and say, download these things, it will empower you, and that's how we get content out to the masses.
One that works. Okay, great. I think the elephant in the room is that the base of the pyramid is, in fact, at the bottom of the pyramid. I think we should be really talking about the top of the pyramid, everything else below. So a massive amount of people are left out. They're in the shadow of the information. So I've been digging into this and trying to figure out, what are all these bright ideas for getting content down to the base? And the truth is, our information is not necessarily welcome and can't get to them. So what we're talking about is people either without a phone or with a very baseline phone. SMS and voice messaging is impractical, either too expensive, or the recipient can't read what's going on. So the question is, and also we have this notion of a sort of charity broadcast system, getting information out to them. And we have to have governments or NGOs pay for it. We've got to break the cycle at some point. So bring them in and educate them on creating businesses, understanding apps, and make them resellers of these apps. So therefore, we put a business overlay on top of the base of the pyramid, and therefore enable the technologies that are required to get the information down. So can you flip to the next? Yep. So the process would be, of course, go out and look. There is no issue with the technologies. They already exist. The content types already exist. The apps already exist. The issue is logistical. How do you get it down there, and how do you make it make sense? So training up of these individuals that go back to their communities and become resellers of valuable information. Our goal is to go out and find valuable information that is valuable enough for people to resell to their own community.
Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing that I discovered, and I'm certain you discovered over the past couple of days, is that there's an enormous proliferation of hubs and labs and networks and events happening across Africa, and incredible energy in trying to curate and stimulate innovation in Africa. And we believe the time has come to take a step back and to have a look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. And when you look at all of these various innovation curation initiatives, all of us are really in some other way doing a gap analysis on the actors involved in the innovation ecosystem and connecting the network in some other way. If you can go to the next slide. We're all part of an innovation pipeline, pulling talent into pre-incubation, pushing it out into incubation, pushing self-sustaining businesses out into post-incubation. But it would be extremely valuable at this stage to see where all of us fit into this ecosystem and what gaps are left uncovered and unserved in the rest of the continent. In Africa, we do not have centuries or decades to change. We do not have the luxury to replicate effort or to replicate error. What we propose is that we put our insights together and that we move towards an alliance of innovation curators in Africa. That we start comparing notes, form a set of shared values, find out what we need to be ethical in what we're doing in this domain, develop a shared network so that we understand where we fit in terms of connecting actors and in the innovation pipeline, and start sharing our knowledge, sharing our learning, breaking down the components of which our individual labs and hubs and incubators are made up out of, and form a body of knowledge, a toolkit that if we want to design a new hub or a new lab or a new event in a specific locale, that we can do the gap analysis and that we have the resources available. And we propose as a first objective to get at least 20, maybe 50 of the most important role players in this space together around a table and start designing these things. Thank you very much.
Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is the sound of the frustrated young developer. He's not in this room right now, and if he is, lucky man. Where are you, lucky man? You're definitely sitting with the right people. But it's a story as old as the device in your pocket today. A story as old as the mobile itself. The challenge for the young developer is that no matter how good your content is, no matter how good your service is, you are David standing in the giant shadow of Goliath, the mobile network operator. And what we're here to propose to you is the idea of Kilisha, the Mobile Content and Service Providers Association, or Alliance, right? And the idea is, why was that sound made, and why is it made every single day, probably hour by hour, somewhere on this continent? The reason, limited options and margins in monetization. What? To make it more profitable. Open up the options, open up the ideas and the avenues to get some money out for the developers, for the mature and existing content and service providers, and possibly later on for media companies and aggregators. Now, where? All right? Right here, right where you're sitting, this city. Okay? And when? The next 6 months. Hopefully, 12 weeks, we should have something nice to say. Now, the how, I mentioned it already. Next slide, please, if you don't mind. I've put my neck on the chopping board. You're kind of seeing only one name there because I was challenged by my team and I love them. But in about 12 weeks, I better have something to show you. And they're going to keep me accountable, and they've got some great connections to set me up to pursue in Nairobi to sit together with 5 premium rate service providers, 5 hubs. And the incentive for this, if they don't want to negotiate on revenue shares, which is the one thing we will drive, given the amount of people we'll get in the room and behind one agreement and one idea, it's for what we call the Young Developer Scheme or Charter, to bring stakeholders to the table, to turn that into a yay! Thank you.
So before we go to the next one, let's do the same thing and repeat the sound of the frustrated young developer. Can we do this? Thank you very much.
Right, so very similar story. Around Africa, there are many, many training programs at the iHubs, M-Labs, universities, and the graduates from these institutions and training programs all come out, and they develop nice apps, but we're thinking about the bottom of the pyramid. It's the biggest market. But the reason they're not going there is because it's quite a complicated market. And so our goal is to build on the existing curriculums and add a little bit on, so it targets the base of the pyramid. And our goal is to add this onto the existing training programs so that whether it's a technology person or someone who just has an idea, he also has in mind how he can actually get in touch with the base of the pyramid and generate revenue from them. Now, when this curriculum is designed, we can train people online, face-to-face, in classrooms, as we've always done. And one thing that we also want to put in is mentorship. So we find out what works, what doesn't work, and we collect feedback and use it to refine this program. Next slide. So right now, we want to find out who wants to join us because you need ideas from all over, crowdsourcing for ideas for this curriculum. So you can show by hands if you want to join us. I see some hands. You can mail us at any of the addresses down there. And we already have a draft curriculum off the top of our heads, but we want to refine it over time in the next month. And once that is done, we'll send around all those that we can contact, all those who do training, and then we shall begin training. I will teach starting in August, so I'll be able to collect feedback as well. And then we will try to build a mentors network, and once we get projects out there, and some are successful, some feel we learn from that and refine our curriculum. That is what we want to do.
Disclaimer. This presentation is not motivated by the lunch I just had, which was funded by Nokia. Connecting people, connecting dots. What are the dots? Where are the dots? I've engaged with about 60% of you in the room, and most of you are involved in some form of incubation process or some form of MLab, iHub, or whatever initiative you are running. There is already some crowdsourced information by the group in Kampala, which is the map that you see out there, which shows where the dots are and what the dots are trying to do. But they are not connected. So the entrepreneur gets confused, he gets frustrated, he doesn't know where to get the information. So the idea is to enhance existing database of hubs and labs and processes that are running in Africa, and then establish a simple communication channel or a platform that will help these hubs and labs communicate to support the entrepreneur out there. Next slide, please. Can you just go back a bit? That is exactly what we're trying to do, trying to connect them, ensure that the connection not only happens at the Africa regional level, but it happens also at the local level, because you find a lot of players in the local environment that don't talk to one another, but they are trying to support the exact same entrepreneur. Next slide. The process is very simple. Create a team that will run on the platform. There's already initiatives that are running, and we have spoken to some of the people that are involved in the initiatives. They've committed to be part of this initiative, and the names and institutions are represented at the bottom there. That's the Innovation Hub in Pretoria, Tanzai City, Hive Collab, who have crowdsourced the dots that we saw on the map, and iHub in Nairobi, and the World Wide Web Foundation that have also committed to be part of this. So join us in connecting the dots.
So this were the Group Mobile Information Society. Thank you very much. Who was in the stream? Please stand up and give them a hand. Thank you very much.